Welcome to the first. You have a story. If you look back on your life, you've done things for the first time that no one in your family, in your town, in the country has done. This is Dr. Sandi. You have unknowingly paved the way for others without knowing it or even acknowledging it. This is where you tell your story so that those who come after you can walk in your footsteps to build their own firsts. Today's episode of The First with Dr. Sandi is entitled Adventures Unleashed. I'm your host and thrilled to introduce our guest, Sara Roccisano. Sara is not your average adventurer. She's an author, international speaker, avid traveler, and an incredible storyteller. She has a unique claim to fame as the first person in her family to French kiss a wolf, which speaks volumes about her fearless spirit and willingness to embrace the unknown. Sara's passion for exploration and traveling led her to create her own company, Embolden Adventures. Through this company, she's embarked on countless experiences, from diving into the depths of the oceans to conquering the highest peaks of mountains. With each journey, Sara has discovered the world's beauty and the power of storytelling to connect people from all walks of life. Look no further if you're looking for inspiration, excitement, and a fresh perspective on life. Find her incredible experiences and insights on her website at emboldenadventures.com and connect with her on LinkedIn at Sara Roccisano. Get ready to be inspired by the incredible stories and adventures of Sara Roccisano. Hey, everybody. It's another podcast, The First with Dr. Sandi. And today I have a wonderful guest that's going to give you some fun knowledge today. And she is Sara Roccisano of Embolden Adventures. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, Dr. Sandi. Really nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And as I was telling you before, I was reading your intro and said, oh my gosh, she has to tell everyone about this. So tell me a little bit about your business and about your number one question here.
Sure. Well, thank you for this. My name is Sara Roccisano. I'm a travel storyteller, a public speaker, and author, with my first book coming out in 2024 about I know, I'm so excited about my travel. It's a travel adventure memoir of some of my travels from around the world. And I'm the founder of Embolden Adventures, which is a travel inspiration content site, encouraging people to get out there to see the world.
Do you book travel as well, or do you just inspire them to go places?
Right now, it's an inspiration piece. Eventually, there'll be some opportunities that I have in the works to encourage people to come on trips with me. But until then, it's come see it through my lens.
What kind of trips do you encourage people to do?
They are trips about, there's an element of adventure, there's an element of curiosity, some spirituality as well, and connection to nature.
Nice. So let's talk about your French kissing a wolf. Let us know what that entails and why. Why, Sara, would you
Why
be
would
French?
you do that? Perfectly good wolf. Yeah, so as I mentioned, part of Embolden Adventures is seeing the world through my lens, from an adventurous standpoint and a spiritual standpoint and a connection to nature standpoint. And the time I French kissed a wolf, well, twice, did it once, did it again, happened to be out in southern Colorado as part of a women's retreat. And what we've done is we connected with the spirit of the wolf. We went to this wolf sanctuary called Mission Wolf. And what we did was we camped, we had a drum circle, we had some moments around the fire for connection. And then we got to the wolf sanctuary in the morning and connected with these wolves, learned their story, learned how they're just sentient beings, and they're very astute and intuitive, and they just have this beautiful heart connection. So we, as this, kind of beautiful tribe of women from around the country, came together and had this good energetic connection with them. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. And one of the wolves howled for us, and another was a wolf ambassador, and she was, I think, half Siberian, no, half Arctic wolf and another breed of a wolf. And we were in her enclosure, and one by one we'd get in there and sit down. We were, kind of coached to be, just very cautious. She's very excitable, happy to see people. Just ignore her, sit down, take your spot, one by one. And then I come in and I sit down and I'm like, this is great. As I'm, a New Yorker that I am, looking around going, wow. And the wolf came up to me, it went for it, put a tongue down my throat, and I'm, couldn't catch a word. And what is happening? So what wolves do is a way, they lick, or they'll lick each other, they'll lick your face. It's a welcome, and it's a inspection, like, who are you, what do you have here, what should I know? But it's a term of endearment. It's a good thing. I will say, though, as it was happening, our canines were clicking, and that was pretty wild. And then I looked into her eyes, they're like yellow eyes, and I'm like, this is a wolf. There's a wolf right in my face, biting my teeth, biting my lip, giving me licks. It was pretty extraordinary. I do have pictures, so there is proof. And then I did it again, in another enclosure, excitable. The other wolf came out. Ah! Sure enough, they
So good you did it twice.
so
Oh
great.
my God.
So nice you did it twice. That's right. But luckily my friend warned me. She goes, "Did you get rabies?" And I'm like, well, after the fact, thinking about it, because rabies, you transfer saliva. That's how you get rabies. And it goes right to the brain. So getting it from your mouth that way, it's a risk. But what these wolves are, they're monitored by veterinarians. In order for them to keep them in their enclosures by Colorado law, they need to be up to date with shots, and they're well fed, well kept. So there isn't real risk of rabies in their enclosures.
Well, I was thinking about it. If you're hiking, let's say, or you're in the mountains and a wolf approaches you, how do you know not to run versus if they want to stick their tongue down your throat? How do you know that? I mean, you can't ask.
Well, I think in the wild it'd be a little bit different. I think you need to be cautious. If you see a wolf, you want to keep clear. Usually there's probably another one. There's probably a wolf pack somewhere. You definitely don't want to be, looking around for a kiss. Be like, okay, I respect your space. I probably shouldn't be here. I'm probably in some wilderness that I'm not really accustomed to. It's probably your best bet to try to get out of there.
That's a bold enough adventure for me, Sarah. If that's part of what you do, I'm interested to tell people to go try it, but I don't think I'm going to try it myself. I'm just a little too cautious and nervous. We have a house in Virginia, and you see everything come out onto your lawn or in the backyard. And I stay inside my house and look through the window because I never know. There's a fox there the other day, and I think it's a she. My husband said it was a she. Was beautiful, a nice red fox. But he went out, and I'm like, get back in this house, Miss New York.
Beautiful. Foxes are so beautiful. I don't know if you heard, but there's a hawk making some noise just now overhead. So wanted to interrupt your story about the fox.
Yeah, yeah. No, I stay clear. Even the deer, when they come, I'm like, I don't know what you're carrying. I'll take a picture of you and I'm all good. But thank you for that education and for sharing that. So you also said you're the first in your family to go to an Ivy League college. Where did you go and how did you decide to go there?
I went to Cornell, go Big Red, Cornell University up in Ithaca, New York, and I went to their engineering school. So I had 4 years there on campus up in Ithaca, New York, in the cold. It was my first time to experience lake effect snow. So, blizzards were no big deal. You got to get to class. We got the place, plowed. You're going. It doesn't matter if there's been 30 inches of snow. So it was an experience. What made me decide to go, they have an excellent engineering program there. It's top in the world, and just the caliber of people I was surrounded by in terms of like friendships and just having that advocacy to know you could try hard, and it could open some interesting doors, and it's a good networking opportunity as well. So I really loved Cornell. It was hard though. I won't sugarcoat it. It was a challenging 4 years for me. Always working really hard, not doing well enough, and just with the weather and just the elements, and you're young, you're 18, 19, 20, and this is new stuff for you. New territory, new challenges, new sort of difficult classwork. So it was a challenging time, but looking back, I'm perseverance and kind of looking back at things that you've done that were very difficult, stick with you for the rest of your life, because you realize, I made it through it. That was hard. I was dedicated to seeing it through. I figured it out. I showed up. I worked hard, and I can revel in the reward of saying that that was my college. So I just had the pleasure to get back up there. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. I headed up to Niagara Falls, Canada, and I took a bit of a detour and headed up through Ithaca and spent some time walking the campus, which was nice.
That is. And as what did your family think about your going off to Ithaca? Are they, I suppose they're like Brooklynites or close from Connecticut someplace. What did they think about you going off on your own up there?
Yeah, like you, my parents are from Brooklyn, born and raised, of children of immigrants from who immigrated to this country from elsewhere, and they're hard workers too. And they came to Connecticut, in the '70s, and then I was born here in the '80s. So it was a way to kind of change, to have a good quality of life in nature. So this is where I grew up, in the woods. And so for them, when they found out that I got into Cornell, I think my dad was in a little bit of disbelief. He's like, I don't believe this, when I told him, like, what? How'd that happen?
Followed quickly by, I'm gonna have to pay for this.
Pretty much. Pretty much, which I'm grateful for to this day. Like, my parents, really emphasized the importance of education. That was mission critical. And so, they worked really hard to make sure that that was possible for me and my brother. So I can't, for me, instead of, wedding money, it's here's your education money. That's kind of how they thought about
I
things.
totally get it. My mom, we did the same thing. My brother went to Columbia, and and it's an investment in him, right? It's an investment in his education. And so I was the one that couldn't decide where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. So I bumped around from school to school. I started out in Brooklyn College. I was a theater major, first of all, which I quickly realized after 2 years, I'm going to be a waitress the rest of my career in New York, because in order to get movie gigs or any kind of, you got to go on auditions during the day. And all my friends were waitresses. They were dog walkers, waiters, like those kind of jobs. I didn't sign up for this. This is not for me. So I quickly changed out of that, which made my mom very happy. But totally understand the investment that your parents take. What are some of the drawbacks of being the first one, though, to make that leap or to make that move in your family?
Yeah, I think more broadly, to answer, my reaction to a question like that, what are the fallbacks to being first? I think a lot of it is people just are not understanding. They don't have a sort of a basis of what this means. And some people that, may be fearful of change may think that this is a bad idea, or may not be understanding, or just may think you're wrong. But in my case, I guess going to college, and in this example, they were supportive. But again, like, this was something that they were far away. We were about 5 hours away by car. We didn't have real email then. Back
Right,
I'm a Zennial. I'm between Gen X and the millennials, that we're
right.
called Oregon Trail, micro generation, who played Oregon Trail on, like, old school Macintosh computers, that are green, the
Yeah.
monitors. So for us, when we got to campus, like, we were one of the first people that had email. Right? We didn't have cell phones. My first cell phone I got was in after I graduated college, that senior summer. So I think for
Yes.
them, being far away from home, was hard, right? That's a first. Couldn't communicate with them. Didn't really have a cell phone, didn't have the instant messenger, the FaceTime, right? So it was a landline in my dorm room that I was hardly there because I was in the library the whole time. So I think for them, it probably was challenging as a first because they had to let go, empty nest for real.
Yeah, yeah. I know that feeling. I stayed at home, so my mom never had that empty nest feeling because in Brooklyn, going up to Columbia is like a subway ride,
Hmm.
you know. So he was traveling, he was a commuter kid going back and forth. And then I just hopped a bus to Brooklyn College, and my sister pretty much did the same thing before she joined the military.
Oh,
So
wow.
she didn't have that empty nest kind of feeling. She knew where we were all the time, and that brought her a certain level of comfort as well, I would say. How do you think that your experiences impact the next generation coming after you? Like, what do you do with your kids that reflected how you grew up or not?
Well, I don't have children, so I can't directly affect my offspring, but I do think that what I do online, encouraging people to see the world, and more broadly, just from a motivational standpoint, because I went through a big change in my life recently. I quit my job, I quit my 20-year career, and kind of surrendered to the universe after going through some pretty eye-opening spiritual experiences. All the while, as you and I know, going through coronavirus, that experience in New York City was a very challenging one. And so I think this was a wake up call for me to say, you know what? I'm not happy. The stress, the pressure, the energy around me, it just isn't working anymore. So I can empathize what you mean about the commute because I used to live in Brooklyn, take the D train into my office on Park Avenue, day in and day out. And then I went to business school at NYU part time, same thing, take the train day in and day out. So there's a lot of like difficulty after a while because there's a lot of pressure and it catches up the burnout, right? So I think the inspiration piece is work hard, play hard, but I think there's also an element of respecting the fact that you can find downtime and you can start to think about how you could listen to your heart, your spirit, your kind of guiding light, and what really is driving you to make you happy. And I think that it's important to not be swayed by external
Mm.
forces, media, or whatever is influencing that might not be in your best interest for you personally. And that's an ongoing journey, that's an ongoing exploration. And I find it through travel. I find it through these experiences I put myself in that feel good and the people I meet along the way. So, hard work pays off. And then it opens your eyes to new beginnings in ways that you can discover for yourself.
I I agree with you on traveling. I love to travel, but I've not traveled a lot since COVID. And I'm just trying to play catch up because I have weeks of vacation. We went to the Maldives in January only because we had bought it pre-COVID, and then everything was on lockdown, and they gave us a certain amount of time we had to use it by. So we finally said, let's go someplace. It's our first post-COVID trip, but haven't really done like vacationing, which we always did every year. And I'm not sure why. We just kind of homebodies and working. We've been working quite a bit. So I understand the impact of travel.
And
When
there's
I went to, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a difference between vacationing and travel in my mind. And like you, I've been to the Maldives. That actually was kickstarting my scuba diving adventures around the world. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? And it can be cost effective in some ways,
Yeah,
right? It's not
yeah,
as cost prohibitive as you may think because of all these ultra exclusive resorts that are there. I mean, you can get a decent flight from JFK on Emirates and what I was on was a dive boat for the week. So that was my living quarters. And we got
okay,
go around and it's an incredible, incredible place. And just meeting the people too. I think there was a lot of, for
very
me,
nice.
an experience, right? Because I think I used to know this statistic. There were, I don't know how many, 3,000 islands. that make up, there might be more, I forget, but there's a lot of islands, thousands of islands that make up the country, and multiple atolls that they're grouped in, and of
Yeah.
which I think only, I mean, again, I don't know my statistics anymore, I used to, but I think less than 50% are inhabited. And they're a strict Muslim country. So when we
Yes.
got off the dive boat with one of the people working the boat that were local, we swam to shore with him, but I couldn't go past the beach because I wasn't covering my legs, right? And then my other friend could go because she had the wetsuit on. So she got to explore the town, but I didn't. It's an
Oh,
interesting place, though. I absolutely loved it.
yeah. I read right before we left. I started reading up on it, and they talk a lot about, my husband's a pastor. So I said, no Bible. He's like, what are you talking about? How am I going to do my devotion and my stuff? Like, it's a Muslim country. You can't bring a Bible. I'd like to come back without having you in jail. And so it was our first time in that exclusive of a non-Christian environment.
Yeah.
The holding hands in public, and again, the clothing, making sure you're covered up. I mean, it was a shock. It was a culture shock, but because I was prepared, I only brought clothing that I knew I could wear. And we just have this habit when we're in public he'll grab my hand. I'm like, you can just hold my hand, but so much. Let's not go to jail. I was very conscious of that
Yeah.
because the things we take for granted that we just have the freedom to do, you really have to think a lot before that,
That,
do.
that that's exactly right, Sandy. And that's why I started Embolden Adventures, because I'd be traveling to these places around the world, such as Jordan, such as the Middle East, such as places that are scary. China I was in 2008. And you realize, like, once you get there, that it's such a different experience than what you were thinking it would be. And the people are so kind, despite, differences in religion, for instance,
Yes.
and other sort of restrictions. And usually when you're going to a place like that, you kind of have a heads up like what it entails, right? No alcohol, no pork, no, even in the case of the Maldives, they said don't bring your cosmopolitan magazines with, like, models on the front in bikinis. Like, they don't do it. So things like that, you're like, okay, as much as I may disagree as the way I live my life here in America, I'm going to their world, and I'm going to be
Right.
respectful, and I'm going to understand it through my eyes and just hear it out. Like, what is this like? And quite frankly, like, there wasn't anything in the time I've traveled. I've been over 42 countries and seen a lot, 6 continents. I've never really felt unsafe. I've never really felt like I've been put in a position that feels like it goes against my ethos, my ethics, and kind
Right.
of the way I see the world. I mean, it's the same thing like going, you mentioned your husband's a pastor. It's the same thing like going to the Vatican City, right? The cathedral there, and where the Pope is, and you tour, right? And they ask for you to cover your shoulders, potentially cover your hair, wear very conservative clothing. It's the same in the mosque and, Abu Dhabi, same thing. So, you're there, it's their kind of laws, their rules. You're there to understand and learn. You could disagree, but, I think that generally speaking, it's pretty polite for the most part.
And what I find is we're so similar in a lot of things because at the root of it, it all started out in the same place, right? And so when you're there, you're like, well, I don't eat pork. I, or some people don't eat pork. I'll eat pork, but I rarely eat pork. So it wasn't a big deal. I eat a lot of vegetables. Yeah, I'll eat whatever they give me because I love vegetables. And, we went to India and it was the same thing. Like, okay, I'm a little nervous with the cows running like right next to me, but
Oh, sure. Or you're gonna hit them with a car. Like, that's a definite concern.
you know, but when you start to travel, like you said, you really start seeing a lot more similarities in people. And when you come back, you understand. I think it's all about understanding.
That's
And
right.
you, if you see someone here in the United States, you understand where they came from and why they're doing the things they do. Or, you know, For me, growing up in Brooklyn, there's no culture shock as such. On my block, in my school, we had kids from like 100 and something countries.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
It's
That's right,
like,
because you're right at the Queens border, right? You're closer to Queens, right? Yeah, very multicultural place is Queens.
on my block is just a United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
And we run into each other's homes, we eat each other's, your mom cooks, I'm there, whether it's Italian or Indian and so I think it kind of spoils us and give us a different reflection of the world from Brooklyn because we think everyone is multicultural. Everyone eats, Chinese food on Friday night, which I got like slapped many a times. I go someplace, I'm like, oh, it's Friday, let's get pizza. There's no pizza here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're right. We New Yorkers have we have a palate for pizza. When we're in another country, like, wait a minute. Isn't working.
you're like, this isn't pizza. And you're like, well, so I enjoy the fact that I grew up in Brooklyn, but it really gives us a very different perspective of the world when we travel.
And I would encourage, because a lot of what I'm doing now is traveling within the United States. And I've been finding myself going out to North Dakota and South Dakota and Wyoming a lot. And sorry?
Why?
Why not? It's beautiful. South Dakota is a beautiful country area over there. The Black Hills where Mount Rushmore is. I have a friend who's Native American and he lives up in the reservation in North Dakota. He's part of MHA Nation. And I've been up to Minot, which is one of I guess it's their main city in North Dakota. And then they're an hour's drive from Minot. And so I got to go out there. I was invited and participated in their powwow and I got to sleep in a teepee. I got to set it up with him and learn how that happened. So that I'm gonna actually post a video about that tomorrow, how to set up a teepee with the help of my friends at MCA Nation. Yeah, so I got to go back again this past summer because my friend Jason organized the Indian horse relay out at North Dakota State Fair in Minot. And I absolutely loved it. So what Native Americans do, the Plains Indians out there, over time is they've competed in these horse relays. So effectively, it's like running a track. And, if you're relaying with, your track team and you're passing a baton, right? It's the same, but the jockey is the baton. The horses are the runners and they run bareback. Oh, sure. And they run bareback and they jump. They're going full speed. And when they do the handoff, they have their teammates. One's trying to catch the running horse. The other's trying to corral the one like bucking, like, I don't want to run. Get on this one. And all the while, the guy's jumping off, jumping back on and going. And whoever wins is the champion. But obviously, the horses don't show up. They may run the opposite direction. They may, buck and throw the guy off. But at that event, 8,000 people were in the stands. And so that was pretty extraordinary. And I had a chance to be up on stage with them and they were doing the Native American dancers and singing with the drum. And it's pretty incredible. So, that was going out in America, flying in Minneapolis, driving a truck, my F-150 through a cornfield, and boom, there I am in North Dakota.
I've not been to any of the Dakotas. I just started going to Colorado and, that side of the world, but I haven't reached North Dakota or South Dakota. I have to tell my husband about that because he would love doing all those American Indian indigenous people
Yeah.
things.
I'm happy to give you more information.
Yes, I would love that. They're here in New York, in Long Island. They have a whole section of different types of indigenous people, but seeing it in other places, we were just in North Carolina, and there are a whole ton of indigenous people doing the powwows and the rituals. As a matter of fact, his brother just sent him, he went to a powwow in North Carolina last week and just sent the pictures from that. So we're like, oh, we've got to go try to do that too.
That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here in Connecticut, they got the Mohegan Sun Casino and Foxwoods, and
Yes.
so there's a lot of, indigenous events that are there. And even here on this side of the state, up in the Washington Depot area, there's another Native American tribe, and they do events like locally at the libraries. They're very fair skin, actually. And but they're true indigenous, because they've been here, from I mean, as early as time, the 1600s with pilgrims, but have, I guess the what the Puritans, I guess, and here in the colonists here in New England, kind of married with these indigenous people. So their facial features are very fair, but they are indigenous, and they do keep with their traditions here in Connecticut.
And in Long Island, they have indigenous people who look like Africans. So it runs the gamut. It's just like any other group of people.
Mhm.
So, Sarah, who inspires you? You're inspiring people now. So, who inspires you to continue this life?
Well, as I mentioned briefly, I'm in a transition period of my life where I've surrendered to the universe, and I kind of put an end to a very hectic 20-year career. I worked on Wall Street, I worked in finance, I worked in renewable energy. I kind of hit different sort of industries in that time, whether it was government and consulting and industry, such as utilities and energy. But I kind of hit a wall. I hit a wall, and I'm in a reinvention process. I'm writing a book for the first time. I'm kind of building up Embolden Adventures. Thank you. Yeah, and it's going really well. I'm very surprised how much I like it. And it goes back to following that kind of North Star compass. I was schooled in engineering, but here I am really enjoying the writing, right? And I'm
That's
approaching it from
different.
it is and it isn't, because I'm approaching it from a logic standpoint. And here I am writing a piece yesterday about some deep spiritual topic that kind of I've gone through a period of transition and a period of kind of personal growth. And a few years ago, I kind of hit a surrender point after, coronavirus in New York City and a few other kind of challenging events that were happening for me personally. And I kind of hit a wall after 20 years of working in Wall Street and finance and in renewable energy across multiple sort of industrial spectrums, such as government, consulting, and utilities. I kind of burnt out. And I realized that what I'm doing now in this transformation is I'm becoming an author. I'm writing a book. And I'm happy about that. Thank you. And I'm approaching it in such a way, as I mentioned, I went to engineering school. What business do I have being a writer? And it's something that is quite interesting for me. I'm seeing it's happening. It's the flow of the writing is really good. I'm proud of it, actually. And it's something that I realized I really like a lot. So why, right? Why am I a good writer if I went to engineering school? How is this possible? And I've been thinking about it. I was writing yesterday a piece about a spiritual experience I had in the rainforest with the indigenous Shipibo shamans in the Amazon rainforest. And I worked with them in their ceremonial psychedelic practices. I took ayahuasca with them 7 times, 7 ceremonies while I was away, came back to New York, and coronavirus started. So that's basically the basis of the book. And for me, that was a spiritual experience where it kind of really changed my perspective very deeply about life and how I want to kind of live my life. And as I'm writing about this piece, I'm approaching it in a very logical, like, how do I know where God exists? How do I know from this particular experience in this particular ceremony? And from all the stuff I learned in engineering school about multi-dimensions and, calculus and other sort of, theoretical physics principles seem to all somehow make sense in the way I understood it through the ceremonies. And therefore God is love. So I approached it in a logical way as I was writing a theorem in geometry, like this angle of this, like a triangle and then this, and then I induce it by that, and then by the way, therefore this is the conclusion. So I wrote that piece about how I feel God is everywhere in nature amongst us, and applying it from the principles I learned in school in a theoretical approach, a theoretical logic. And so now it's clear. To me, it makes sense, and it's like, this is good work. So I'm
Yeah.
approaching the engineering training into the clarity of the writing, even just how I speak as well. So, but all that being said, that transition, right? What that encouragement, who encouraged me. I am being coached by Mel Robbins. I'm sure you know who she is.
Yes,
Yes, I've been part of her coaching program virtually for 2 years now, and I've had the opportunity as part of that to watch her kind of grow and kind of be the person she was when she started 2 years ago to where she is now, and kind of being there with her in the videos and even on the live trainings and the interactions I have on social media with her. And she's inspiring, as we all are, as all of our coaches are, right? There's a way to see what possibility is there and how to kind of evoke it within you to kind of make the change for yourself. And
yes,
so that for me has been inspiring. But all of us really, the interactions we have here, what you're doing in your podcasting and how you're trying to get the word out, right? I think we've approached a new era where now we have the video camera. We are able to connect, virtually, as opposed to what life was like when I was in college and we didn't have any of this. So we're
even just pre-pandemic, even pre-pandemic. I mean, the pandemic changed some things for the better. I've been working from home since the 90s, probably on and off, and or being able to use my internet, even though it's AOL, sign on, worrying, but I've had the pleasure of doing that. And then I started my company with my business partner in 2002, and we were virtual. So
back
the
then.
yes, the pandemic was not a shock to us because we were ready. And we were always telling people, why do you have an office, this expensive office? You could do this. If you're not seeing clients every day, you could do this from home. And so it was just tell all for us to help people. And that's what I did. I went back and got a doctorate in flexible work arrangements was my dissertation thesis.
Really? There you
And no one, I was prepared for the pandemic and didn't even know it.
go. You're the oracle.
Yeah. And so I decided I was just going to help people set themselves up during the pandemic because people were losing money left and right. They had to move, they had to go back home or, move to a different environment. And that was such a tough time. And I was happy I was able to just help them get started in setting up their home offices and do all of that things. And I did it for free. That was just my give back to the world, to the universe, right?
Beautiful. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about listening to that inner compass, right? What feels right? What feels joyous? And what feels like something I can action on that is going to be the next thing, right? There's always something. Put your finger on
Always.
it, right? There's always something,
I was
right?
telling someone out of every disaster comes something really good.
That's
We
right.
started our business right after 9/11. We were 9/11, and we also were down in the tower. We worked at the financial center.
Ooh,
We had talked about my business partner about going out on our own,
okay.
just not even together, but we were like, we've done with corporate like you. I was in
Yeah.
corporate for 30 something years at that point. And I'm like, we want to do something else. We want to have our own company. And I have to say, if 9/11 didn't happen, we probably would have been dragging out and still working in corporate, even though our mindset was, we've learned enough, let's go give this back.
Good for
And
you.
so, yeah, 9/11, we just said, okay, we're done with that. Let's move on to the next phase of our lives. And we haven't looked back since.
I love it. What a story. That's a story of inspiration. See, you can do it. You can rely on your inner compass. You know what you can be capable of and give it a shot. Take the risk, go out of your comfort zone, be emboldened.
It helps when you're still the age you feel I can do this, and if it's a mistake, I can pivot still, right? But when you get a little bit older, you get a little bit more cautious
Of
about
course.
what you want to do and security and financial security and all of those things. But when you're just dumb about it, you just go do. You go do, it's a great time. You just go do things that you think you can do, and if you can't, then you go find something else.
That's right. Life is short and it's all about change. Change is the only constant in life. So be okay with change. Things will change whether or not you like it. How to roll with those punches, right? And how to go with it and how to enjoy life as a result, right? Don't feel like you always are stuck. There's always another way.
So, Sarah, tell us how everyone can reach you. Give me your handles and you can send it to me. We'll post it up. But
Okay.
just how can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
Sure. You can go online, www.emboldenadventures with an S.com. And I'm also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I eat Twitter too. Sometimes I'll post on Twitter. But if people would like to reach me, there's an email contact page on my website, and it's Sara, S-A-R-A, at emboldenadventures.com.
All right. Well, thank you. This is so enlightening. I now my audience knows how to French kiss a wolf.
Ah!
So thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, Sandy. Thank that Dr. Sandy. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad we were able to get through this without any technical difficulties.
Yes, amazing. Have a great day.
Thanks again. Nice to meet you.
This is Dr. Sandy. Thank you so much for sharing your journey on the first, where no two stories are alike, even if the circumstances are similar. Let this discussion serve as inspiration for others to show what's possible, and more importantly, to produce seconds and thirds.